For today's RC video, I have a brand new ParkZone RAF S.E.5A biplane from World War I. This was gifted me for Christmas, and it actually came from my local hobby shop many years ago, Wheat State Hobbies, so that's pretty fun. This is actually an older kit, but it's really cool because it's brand new. So I get the pleasure of putting it together and having a brand new airplane. So I suppose we're going to kind of do a little bit of an unboxing and put together, bind it, and then we'll probably do a maiden flight another day, and I'll just post this as the build video. So hope you enjoy, and we're going to kind of get into it. All right, unboxing it. I'm going to go ahead and tip it on this side. We'll open it from this end and just slide it out. There we go. Oh, big old box, come on. There we go. Set that there. Set that box aside. Okay. We got quite the little haul here. Here's our little pilot guy already. Yes. Don't think that's anything, just keep the wings in. Same thing here. Very well packaged, I'll say that. We got a little bit more protective layers here. Looks like this should just pop out. There we go. Here's our fuselage. Wow, this is actually really detailed. We've got, I don't even know what you call this. I would say rivet lines. Those are like rivet lines. But man, that actually looks really good. Good Lord. Pilot's pretty detailed. We do got that little scarf, our guns. This is cool. Even the exhaust, look at that. We do have push rods already installed to our servos. And then I assume this will be our battery tray. We're gonna have to go ahead and plug all these in for our elevator and rudder servo, of course, our ailerons. So I imagine the bottom wing is going to have some connectors, and then the push rods at the end of the wings will do the top wings ailerons. And then I think they were even kind enough to provide a bind plug. Or something. Oh, yeah, it's like a little extension for your bind plug. That's pretty rad. We're going to hang on to that. We got some Velcro for our battery, so that's nice. I assume there's going to be some kind of battery door, you know, and that'll close it, so. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and put this right back where I found it and see if I can find the instructions. All right. Ah, maybe this is it. Okay. Close. That's our horizontal stabilizer. I assume that'll just get screwed on pretty easy. Looks like we've got battery, cover door, some extra machine guns for the top of the wing. It does come with a bind plug. Check that out. All right. We got our wing struts. I think that's what you call them, that go in between the wings, hold them up. Okay. We're gonna keep that bag sealed for now. Looks like landing gear and tires for the landing gear. Great. Okay. Nothing left over there. I think I'm gonna need a knife for that. Grab my X-Acto knife. I know this is sharp, and that'll open it pretty easy. We got one on that side. And one on that side. And then, not sure if this is the top wing or the bottom wing. I'm assuming this one's the top. Yeah, definitely the top wing. Okay. I'm gonna set that up here. More protective foam. I love that. This is, I will say, very well packaged. If you're worried about it coming damaged, most likely it's not going to be. So that's nice. Okay, this one's definitely our bottom wing. So that'll go, fuselage will go like that. Yep, all right. Cool deal. We got plenty of space here, or length on the servo wires. That's nice, I dig that. Just get through here, definitely running out of space. And then it looks like our vertical stabilizer's right here. There we go. Tail wheel already attached. Maybe it doesn't come with a skid. Could be wrong. I've never been wrong before though, so. No instructions. Now I can't imagine it's too hard to figure out how to put this together. Let's check the box. All right, so I guess a tip, if you have this exact old ParkZone SE5, before you unbox everything else, get the manual out first, and maybe make your life a little easier. So, I guess, let's go ahead and get into this, because I think we've got all the parts. It looks like this is going to be pretty easy to put together. Just a couple Phillips head screws to put things together. Of course, you know, bind it and put everything the way it needs to be. All right, so step one is to get the receiver in and bind it, get all that set up before we put the wing on and whatnot. Because once we put the wing on, you don't really want to have to go in there and try to bind it. So that's going to be step one. Now, unfortunately, this one is a plug and play or bind and fly model, but it didn't come with the receiver, didn't come with the battery, it didn't come with the charger. Oh well, that's okay. Again, I do have a receiver. This one also came from my local hobby shop, came with the bind plug. Even though this one came with the bind plug, I've got more here. And then something I've always done is that way you always have a bind plug on you. I actually keep one in the back of my transmitter. So I guess that's a little tip if you care. So that way you always have a bind plug just in case you fall out of bind. Now, I've already set up my model here, RAF S.E.5A. I got a 6-minute timer, and then I'm going to show you my settings I went ahead and did. So for expo in my dual rates, I have it set to my C switch for my ailerons. So here I have 10%, which just softens up the middle sensitivity, but we still have 100% throw. Then you click down to the middle position on the C switch. I've got 85% rates, 15% expo, and then same thing here. It's 75% and 25%, and that's on the C switch. And then I've got the same setup for the D switch for my elevator. I generally leave full rudder control. That's just how I like it. For my throttle cut, I have that on my H switch. So the way I like to think about it is when all the switches are pushed forward, they're at their neutral position. So this would be off, throttle wouldn't do anything. Once I flick that on, as you can see when I move the throttle, if you can see the screen, I don't know if you can or not, but that moves it. Flick it back, it goes to 130% negative, and it doesn't do anything. So I've got that set up. And then the last thing is mixing. I always, on most of my models, I pretty much always do a little bit of aileron and rudder mixing. And so you just switch it to on, and then I did about 20%. So if you give it a little bit of left aileron, it's also gonna give it just a little bit of left rudder, you know, without me having to actually mess with the stick. So that is it for how I have it set up. I got a 6-minute timer, so that should be plenty. And then for battery, I've got a 2200 milliamp 3-cell. It's got the same connector as the inside of the airplane. I use this for my little 1.3 meter sport cub, so this should work just fine. So let's go ahead and get this bound and going. First things first, I do have a bind switch here, but I'm gonna go ahead and just, if you have a DX9, you're gonna go to, what you're gonna do is you're gonna click the scroll wheel button, scroll all the way to the bottom to System Setup. You're gonna click Yes. You're gonna keep scrolling pretty much all the way to the bottom till you get to the bind page. And then we're going to scroll over to bind, and we're going to leave it like that for just a moment while we plug in the rest of the stuff. So I do have the horizontal and vertical stabilizer out, and that's just so I can figure out which servo is which for this. So flipping our fuselage upside down, we've got two servos poking out here. We've got two servos here. So all I got to do is figure out which one's which. So this one goes out this way, and looking at the horizontal stabilizer, the control horn is on this side. So this one here would be our elevator. So I'm just going to hold on to that one, keep that one in mind. So that means that if this one's our elevator, it's going to be like so. Our push rod's coming kind of at a diagonal, and it's going to go right here. So we're going to take this one and plug that one into our elevator slot on our little receiver here. Okay. All right. I don't know what the deal was. I actually used the bind plug they included in the kit, as well as this whole bind extension, and it worked just fine. So I don't know what to say about that, but there you go. We'll go ahead and unplug it now. We're going to take that bind plug out, set that aside. We don't need that. And we should be good to go. The only thing left to do is we're going to mount the receiver. This is just some double-sided tape. You could also use Velcro. That works. And honestly, I usually prefer that, but this is what I have right now. So got my receiver mounted up to the side there. I went ahead and just tucked the speed control underneath the battery tray. Of course, I've got the battery connector kind of facing this way. And then these are going to be our two aileron servos. So that goes into a Y. So we're ready to move on to the next step, which I believe is installing the lower wing. Put the lower wing on, we've got that out. There's a little bag of bolts and whatever these are. They're kind of like push pins. I'm not sure, we'll find out later. We're gonna go ahead and grab two screws that are like these. And then this is the bottom side of the wing. What we're gonna do, plug in our aileron servos. These two little notches just slide in right there. And then we're going to take our two screws, put them in there, and then we'll tighten it down, and that's it. There we go, bottom wing installed. Let's move on. From the assemblies, landing gears, we're going to go and grab this piece, this bag with our wheels in it, and then I'm pretty sure we're going to need some hardware, so we got that too. It looks like it kind of goes together like that. And that. And then it'll probably go something like that, if I'm correct. Might have to turn this around. There we go. Okay. Yeah, I think that's how it's supposed to be. See how that turns around. Make sure that's right. And it looks like we're labeled left and right. So I suppose that would be correct then, if you're looking at it this way. So we got that. Next thing we need to do is put on our wheels. If I can get this bag open, darn. Wheels, slide those on, and then we're going to want the machined screws because this baggie came with some more, I'm going to say wood screw looking like screws. It's got a pointy tip, meant to like screw into something. This is machined, you know, flat. So I assume that just goes in here. I would assume correct. So, okay, slide that on. When you do wheels, you don't want them to be butted up real tight, just that way, just to give it a little bit of room. That way the wheel can move back and forth. And don't drop it. I went ahead and separated all the pieces after getting the wheels on. The next step is we're going to grab these brown pieces that look like that. We're going to do the bigger ones. So as you can see, there's two sizes. There's two of these little ones and two of these big ones. We're going to go ahead and do the big ones. And where they go is right here. So we are going to kind of line this up. It's going to be a little difficult, honestly. But it's going to go like that. You put that there, and then you put these screws on the other side. So I'm going to repeat that for here, and then the smaller ones are going to go up here. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I've got the landing gear all installed, so all these brackets are on. They're screwed the way they should be. It was a little difficult just because everything's flopping around. I will say, it did come with 6 of these little rubber grommets, and I'm not sure what they're supposed to be for. It doesn't really say in the instructions. Maybe they'll come up later, maybe they won't. Now my theory is if you notice, even with the fully tightened, it's a little wobbly and loose. Now of course, once you put it in, it's going to be much more fixed. But my theory is maybe you're supposed to slide these over this rod and squish them in between the brackets here. That way it stays nice and tight and there's less of that. Also, this is the optional tail skid. I'm going to set that aside for now. With the airplane upside down, we're going to put the landing gear in like this. And then those should slide in. Going back to our original bag of hardware, we're going to use these screws that have kind of a flange on them so they sit flush, and they almost have like a self-tapper end on them. And we need 8 of them, and we're just going to screw them in. So more boring, just tightening stuff down. Okay, landing gear is all on. This little green piece and this little green piece do have a right and left. And so make sure you put, the right one on the right side, the left one on the left side. And then as you can see, the bolts do sit flush, or I should say screws. I would recommend doing the front ones first, as, while getting to the front screws here is pretty easy. Doing it from this side, you've got a kind of a not so great angle. So if you put in just these ones first, you can actually rotate the landing gear a little bit. And then it was a little hard to get these screws in, but that's just because it's actually cutting the threads with the self-tapper screws. So that's it. Next thing we're going to do is put on the wing. And so I'm going to set that there. We've got our struts, and then these green pieces are going to go here. And then we're going to go back into our original bag of hardware and use these screws that we used to put the bottom wing on. So let's go ahead and get that going. All you got to do, slide that on, kind of like so. We're going to take one of these screws and just put her in. Now I'm going to go ahead and repeat this for all the other ones. Again, D's go in the back, B's go in the front. And then I'm going to peel all the stickers off, of course. All right, I was able to get the top wing on. Now to fix it, we actually get to use these pins. The short ones are going to go on the outside. They're just going to slide in there. And the longer ones are going to go right here. So go ahead and throw those in, and now the top wing will be attached.
Ooh, it's making sounds. Is it? Dumb thing, put it in reverse and try it.
With those pins installed, you know, as you can see, let's see if I can get in frame. That pin, all those. Our top wing is now secured. And the only thing left to really finish the top wing is to connect the servos that are right here to our top control surfaces. So we're gonna use these. These are really nice because they actually are threaded. So we can adjust how tall it is. That way it's not like that, you know, and then we're just gonna clamp it down. So that's that. We're gonna put that together real quick. Then we're gonna put the tail on. We've got those push rods connected together. This one I had to lengthen quite a bit, but you can see they're even with the wing. So that's exactly what we want. Let's go ahead and put the tail together. Put the tail together. First, we're going to put our horizontal stabilizer on. That just slides on like that. And then we're going to take this piece right here and you just put that on top. So, sure, might help if I do that. There we go. There you go. Put that together first, then go ahead and just gently slide it on. And then we're going to go back into our original hardware bag and we're going to grab these screws. These ones are, you know, the Phillips. They've got a flat head here. And then this is not a machine screw, so this is gonna, again, probably cut threads. So put that on the end of our screwdriver. There's just two of them, and we're gonna go right in here. Horizontal stabilizer is installed. It's just two screws, as I said. I will note that I really cranked it down, and it's it's a little loose. Now I'm hoping that once you put in the vertical stabilizer, that it'll probably firm it up. But I will say I really cranked it down. I did a lot more than I normally would, and it's definitely got a little more play than I think I would like. But to install the vertical stabilizer, they actually provide like tape, and they want you to put tape on it. And frankly, I don't really want to do that. I think they do that just because if you ever want to take it apart, you can. I don't plan on it, so a little bit of phone safe glue. I'm just going to dribble, some on here, some on there, and glue it in. So go ahead and do that. All right, I put some glue on both sides and in here, and I spread it around. Let's go ahead and put her in. The control horn does have to go on the underside, so we're gonna just have to finagle this. There we go, just like that. And then the next thing is our tail wheel and the bottom of our vertical stabilizer / rudder needs to line up like that. And then we're gonna take this specific screw. It's got kind of a, it's black, Phillips head, it's got a shank and threads. And then we're going to put it up in here. So I'm gonna wait for that glue to dry just a moment before I put that in. Another thing to keep in mind is this is the optional tail skid. So if you want a more scale look, and you want it to be a tail skid rather than a tail wheel, you can obviously unscrew this part and put it in how it needs to go. I assume, let's see. Yeah, it'd go like that. So that's how you could do it. I'm gonna leave the tail wheel on. I don't care that much. I will keep this piece in case, but I don't foresee myself changing it. So just gonna do that and call it a day. The tail all glued together, we've got one more step before this thing is complete. And that is just to attach the linkage to the rear. So just essentially going to do the same thing as I did with the ailerons. Make sure that things are straight. I suppose we have a few more steps, like we probably ought to add the battery door and maybe the extra machine gun, but the last thing to do is put this machine gun on. So I suppose it just probably plops in like that, and I'll glue it in place. And then our battery hatch needs to be installed. So I guess that's about it. Let's go ahead and drop some glue in here. Not too much. And the final step, we'll just go ahead and turn it upside down and put our battery door in. And our SE5 is complete. Wow, it is a good looking plane, I'll say that. Overall, the build wasn't too bad. There's a few gripes I have. Landing gear was kind of not awesome to put together. It still rattles a lot, so I may take some of the landing gear apart and put in those rubber bushings. Again, the instructions didn't say anything about it, so I didn't put it in. I might take it apart a little bit and go ahead and put those in just to quit it, you know, from rattling. I think my only other gripe would be the tail section. I'm not a huge fan of how loose that horizontal stabilizer was, but with it glued in and the vertical stabilizer in, I think we're okay. So, only thing left to do is I'm gonna go ahead and throw a battery in. We're gonna make sure all of our servos are going the right way. And then another thing to know, our center of gravity is 3 inches back from the leading edge of the top wing. So that's how you measure that. But other than that, this is done. So let's throw a battery in and let's see what she does. Got the battery in. I will say that battery compartment is a tight squeeze. So definitely plug it in first, shove those wires in, and then strap it down. Okay, let's go ahead and do ailerons first. That's the big exciting one. And again, we're gonna go ahead, I'll show you my high rates and low rates, and we may adjust it even lower of rates just because of how much control surface we have. You know, we've got 4 ailerons. So let's see, left, that doesn't look left, where is it? Yeah, that's not left, and that's right, okay. So to adjust that, ooh, that's loud. There we go. Let's go ahead and servo setup. We're going to click on travel, just put it on reverse, head over to aileron, click that. Now, that looks better. That's right, that's left, perfect. Let's go ahead and do up. Yep, that's up, that's down, that's left, and that's right. Looks like we're all hunky-dory there. I'll go ahead and show you the low rates. So if we flip it all the way down to 2 for our aileron, our C-switch, okay, you can kind of see it goes less, and if I click it into the middle position, it goes a little further and a little further. I imagine, honestly, that the low rates would probably be just enough with this airplane. Same thing with our elevator. Go to the D switch, put that all the way down. I pull that back, and we can watch as the tail goes a little bit further each time I flick it. So I'll adjust these as I see fit. On my maiden flight, I'm going to do low rates, so that'll be nice. And then the last thing to check is how much power this baby's got. Go ahead and take our kill switch off, throttle cut. Look at that. That's not bad. 3-cell power with a brushless motor. It goes pretty good. I'll say I really do like the little scarf. That looked good flying in the wind. So this is awesome. I am super excited to maiden this. I think it looks great. I think it's going to probably perform great too. All right, so with that, this is I guess a kind of tutorial on how to build this airplane and kind of a review unboxing. I'll do a maiden flight another day, but I'll say it's a great looking airplane. I love the scale exhaust. The machine guns look great. I do like how the pins go together. That's pretty nice. So overall, this is going to be an awesome airplane to fly. I'll actually probably go ahead and I'll most likely fly it on low rates most of the time, just to kind of get that scale feel. But other than that, man, it's a pretty sweet looking airplane. Actually, if you do look, you know, when I put in some left aileron, you'll see the mixing for the rudder lead. So see how it moves just a little bit, but I can always add more, a little bit less. And then of course, you know, it does have a good amount of power, I'll say that. Maybe not lose hold of it, but yeah, super excited to fly it. This is going to be a very cool addition to my fleet. So that's it. I guess check back on my channel to see the maiden flight, because I'm sure this video is long enough now. So I will be posting that as soon as I can, as soon as I get out and fly this sucker.